Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. In a couple of seconds, you will hear from future President Donald Trump. You'll also hear from the beautiful and talented and very intelligent Alina Habba, his lawyer. You'll hear from Kevin O'Leary. You'll hear from a number of people. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Anyone telling you that Trump is in terrible is in a terrible economic situation or financial situation is likely a complete imbecile. I want to read you this from the other day. This is an article in Forbes. My goodness, really quickly, Paul Bartlett, God bless you, thank you, sir. In Australia, to my viewers in Australia and around the world, in the Philippines, in the UK, Canada, New Zealand, Nigeria, Sweden, everywhere around the world. God bless you. Thank you so very, very much, Paul. I can never thank you. Thank you so much. Every single live stream. Thank you, Paul. Fortune magazine. A rally in a stock tied to Trump Media and Technology Group. And again, hit subscribe. In a couple of seconds, you will hear from a number of amazing people. But this is the other day. Just a couple of weeks back, actually, a rally in a stock tied to Trump Media and Technology Group has minted a nearly $4 billion windfall for Trump. Again, you're going to hear some awesome people in a couple of seconds, but this is an article in Fortune about how Trump is going to potentially lose a lot of money in New York. What's greater, $4 billion or $450-something million? Okay, number one. Number two, Mark Cuban today or the other day was defending Trump, but then he took, he tried to disparage Trump, saying, oh, well, he wanted interest rates to be low during his administration. We had record low poverty. We had record highs in household median income with Trump. Mark Cuban knows more about the economy than I do. But, does he not understand that we had an amazing economy with Trump and real wages have been down for most of Biden's tenure? And interest rates are through the roof. It's double. Interest rates are 7 to 8% to buy a home. They were around 3% with Trump. And we were doing extremely well in terms of the economy. We didn't have the inflation or the interest rates that we do now. And so anyway, but Mark Cuban actually defended Trump and said, hey, you know what? He doesn't have 450 plus million in cash. Okay, because you're not going to get the return in cash that you would perhaps in real estate, but Trump has real estate throughout the world. You're not going to bankrupt Trump. This is all a Pyrrhic victory for Democrats, it's not only a Pyrrhic victory, it's the most absurd attempt at trying to disparage or demean Trump. Trump is a billionaire. He just made $4 billion. By some estimates, it could be $11 billion from a 79 million or so shares of Truth Social. Then it says the profit is only on paper. So what? Most of Warren Buffett's money is on paper also. Who cares? This is Fortune. In a couple of seconds, you will hear from Alina Habba. You will hear from a lot of wonderful people. But ladies and gentlemen, anyone who tells you that Trump is in dire straits, that Trump is not really a billionaire, that Trump is hurting for money, is not only delusional, but potentially one of the greatest imbeciles on this planet. The man can make money. You can say whatever you want about Trump. Oh, he's mean. Oh, he tweets mean things. Nobody has more vitriol and venom than the morally superior liberal Democrats on Twitter. When Trump's brother passed away, the immoral, wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats, the hashtag wrong Trump was trending. You talk about the most venomous, petulant, malicious type of human being. It's the morally superior, wonderful, highly educated liberal Democrats among us. You've never seen Venom. They say, a morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat scorned is somebody who wants to seize Trump's businesses and hotels and real estate in New York to the detriment of the average New Yorker. We'll get to that in a second. Hit subscribe to this channel. The man just got $4 billion. This was a couple of weeks ago in Fortune magazine. And then it says, well, the profit is only on paper and he'll have to wait months to monetize it. So what? Who cares? If somebody said you owed $450 million, but you have $4 billion waiting for you, would you feel petrified? Would you feel that the walls are closing in? The walls are closing in on Trump with his $4 billion waiting for him. And we're not even talking about all the real estate around the world. We're not even talking about, these are bureaucrats, petulant, malicious, wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats in New York who very likely know absolutely nothing about real estate in that city. Anyway, $4 billion, a little bit more than $450 million. So, okay, they take $450 million of his properties. Yeah, and what do you think happens to the city of New York, unfortunately? And on appeal, what do you think takes place? Rob, thank you. Hit subscribe to this channel, everybody. New York AG will begin to try to take his buildings, but they can take his possessions when he has business partners that own part of it. Exactly. Diane, thank you. Rob, exactly. Diane, thank you so very much. Not only does he have business partners, but what happens to all the other real estate in New York? If you're a liberal billionaire in New York, do you want to risk your properties that perhaps, God forbid, you became a supporter of Trump? Then what happens? They'll take that away from you almost certainly. Paul and Rob and Diane, thank you so very much, Diane. Thank you. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Here's the article. In a couple of seconds, you'll hear from the wonderful and awesome Alina Habba. Trump faces huge losses. Okay. February 29th. Oh, my God. Oh, what's this? Oh, $4 billion. So he just made $4 billion from the SEC allowing the merger to take place. By some estimates, it's $11 billion he will eventually get. Yeah, it's on paper, and he'll sell shares to pay for whatever $400 million fine. I don't get it. You have to be really delusional to think that Trump can't make money or enough money to pay a fine for something he didn't do. We'll get to that also. Hit subscribe. Let's listen to the awesome Alina Habba.
Good evening. So let's talk about one thing that the press hasn't reported. We just listened to testimony from a man who has such distinct recognitions as an accounting expert that even Letitia James's team and the OAG's team used him themselves as an accounting expert. Professor Bartov was the New York Attorney General's expert in the Exxon case. Let's start there. But today, when he was on the other side, they spent the entire day objecting because he was giving testimony that didn't suit their claims. His testimony included that there was absolutely, and I quote, no fraud, that the statement of financial condition for President Trump was understated, that there was no evidence of concealment, and that, in fact, President Trump's statements of financial condition had something that most other statements of financial condition don't have. 18 pages of descriptions and details about his properties, about his trophy assets, things that most people don't need to do and wouldn't do. The reason? Because he had nothing to hide and he didn't conceal anything. This is not a publicly traded company. This is a private company. And the Attorney General is now sticking her nose into private companies. This is a very scary moment for our country. We have to have boundaries. We have to have laws. They were objecting every 5 minutes, and I really give credit today to the press that was in there. I did look at some of the feed, and it was accurate. There was absolutely no fraud. The statements were undervalued. And President Trump and the Trump Organization provided Deutsche Bank with everything they needed. Last week, we heard banks make clear that they thought they were a trophy client. They were the big whale that they wanted to get, and they valued their relationship. They said that holds true today. I don't know why we're here. I've said it before, and I say it again. Again, this case has absolutely no merit, and you don't have to believe me. A man that gives the Nobel Executive Committee recommendations on accounting and who should be recognized in accounting. That man that just sat in there for the entire day made it very clear and had words with the AG and said, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I say it too. You should be ashamed of yourself.
By the way, really quickly, Mark Cuban took a couple of, he defended Trump and then tried to disparage him. Let's say Mark Cuban wanted to sell the Dallas Mavericks. Let's say that he was trying to sell the Mavericks for a price that other team owners said was far above what most people thought the Mavericks were worth. So he has an NBA franchise and he wants to sell it. Does he get the opinion and the consensus of others within the NBA? How about no, never, not in a million years. Mark Cuban, if he wanted to sell the Dallas Mavericks, would do so for the price that he felt was accurate. Now imagine if prosecutors in Texas went after him for deceiving banks, even though the banks were begging to help him with that sale. That's the same thing that took place, the exact same thing that took place with Trump. Not one person lost money. The banks were begging to give Trump money. Deutsche Bank gave $2 billion. Every real estate mogul or if you're selling a house, you're going to sell it for more than likely what the initial buyer wants to pay for it. Are you then committing a crime? Of course not. But let's continue.
Thank you.
What will the former president be prepared to say at his own behalf?
I'm not going to speak about privileged information. At this time, the president is looking forward to taking the stand and once again making clear that he cooperated, he performed on his loans, they were paid ahead of schedule in some instances, always on time, and he was never in default. But somehow Miss James needs to fulfill her political promise, so we're here, and he'll be addressing all of that on Monday. Don't forget, though, he's going on Monday with the judge's gag order still in place, so he can't speak about certain things. He has to be so careful. That is so unconstitutional, in my opinion. We have First Amendment rights, we have rights as attorneys, Sixth Amendment rights, and those are all being violated. And he still wants to take the stand, even though my advice is, at this point, you should never take the stand with a gag order. But he is so firmly against what is happening in this court and so firmly for the old America that we know, not this America, that he will take that stand on Monday.
What can we expect on Monday?
The same as we've heard. The same as we've heard from experts. He will clarify it. He will open himself up to whatever they want because he's not afraid. People that are afraid cower. President Trump doesn't cower. We'll be back on Monday with that, and tomorrow we'll hear more testimony from this incredibly intelligent man.
What was your client's reaction to the testimony today?
I think he made it clear. It's more frustration that we have wasted time, that they are doing election interference. This is a tactic that we've seen time and time again. This is not the first or last of it, and we're going to have to deal with it in all the other trials. But I really hope this is a lesson to those other AGs and DAs out there trying to make a name for themselves off of President Trump's back. If you're going to do it with garbage claims, it's going to come out because there are experts willing to put their heads out, willing to put their necks out, and willing to say that this is garbage. And we heard that today, the entire day, and we will hear that well into tomorrow. I don't speak about politics. I'm a lawyer.
But no, with all the cases that are stacked against him,
Yeah.
does he still feel confident about Monday, the outcome of this case and everything that's...
The outcome of this case was determined before we walked into court. Let's be clear. We're not walking into this court every day expecting that this judge is going to let us off. We already see what's happened in this court. This judge made his determination on summary judgment before we even walked in, before an expert took the stand. So let's not get it twisted. I'm not here fighting for that. I'm here fighting for America with him so that we can stop this. That's the truth of it. And it's a very sad state of affairs. Today and many days we've asked for a directed verdict because there is no case. This
All you have to do is just read the fine print within these articles, ladies and gentlemen. There is hysteria, mania in media, okay, say that 10 times, trying desperately to make Trump into this penniless individual who really isn't a billionaire. He's lying about it. It's like, well, number one, he's a billionaire. Number two, billionaires don't have 450 or 500 million dollars in a checking account, okay? You'd have to be, again, a complete and utter delusional, potentially fool to think that a billionaire would just have $400 million in cash, okay? That's number one. Number two, this is purely partisan, okay? Number three, he has $4 billion that he made. I'm not even getting to. I'm not exactly, Stephen. $4 billion is a lot more than 450 million. I'm not even getting to his overseas properties. Beyond Glory, thank you. Keep busting, bro. Thank you. To my super chat, thank you. I'm not even getting, and you'll hear from President Trump in a second, I'm not even getting to his overseas properties, to a sneaker company that's going to make him millions, okay, to whatever venture he decides. He's going to be a two-term president. There's nothing stopping Trump, and they know this. So they think that making him out to be a penniless individual will hurt him politically. If anything, the average American can relate to not paying bills. The average American can relate to, like, paying taxes, paying a parking ticket. They can relate now more to Trump, which is hilarious because everything Democrats do is trying to despair. Really, you couldn't be more inept than today's Democratic Party. Everything they do, thank God, only benefits Trump. I mean, how utterly incompetent can you be when your entire life is dedicated to demeaning and disparaging and tearing down Trump, and he gets stronger and wealthier every time you try to do that? Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel right now. Let's go ahead really quickly and listen to Kevin O'Leary. This is really interesting.
Me right now is O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, your reaction, how do you think Trump's fine impacts investors and businesses in New York?
Well, developers are all asking the same question. Is this fine, penalty, and interest commensurate with the act, the crime, so to speak? Because, as remember, there's no money's lost. There's no victim here. So essentially just under $500 million fine for a situation where no monies were lost and the harmed parties, supposedly the banks, were fully paid back. So we're just wondering, does this make sense? And asking ourselves, how long will it take to the appellate court to bring it down to what a reasonable number might be? I have no idea what that is. But in the meantime, while this is going through the system, none of us want to put new money to work in New York until it gets resolved, because it's not just the governor's words about behavior, which none of us understand. I don't understand what you said there. It wasn't comforting to me. I'm just one investor. But I'm very concerned about the next step of seizing assets. Capital comes to America because of the stability of the justice system. And this is not stable in terms of many people's eyes, domestically and internationally. Seizing assets is what happens in Venezuela. It doesn't happen in New York. And so this is a little scary.
And of course,
everyone knows that Democrats in New York are going after Trump. Okay, there's not a person on this planet, beyond glory, thank you. Marxism is so 19th century. Cannot exist when the whole world knows they are exactly, beyond glory, thank you. Exactly. You cannot pretend to be about the rule of law and then go after one individual while at the same time ignoring Hunter, Joe, all these Democrats who obviously committed graft and bribery. Okay, Trump does not have a laptop. Okay, they try desperately to make everything morally relative. The problem is that Trump didn't have a laptop. He didn't have 50 intelligence officials come out of nowhere saying that, Ernie, thank you, saying that that it was a plot by another country to let you know how corrupt Trump is. That's the Democratic Party. That's what happens when Democrats have their criminal activity exposed to the world. So, I mean, you could just look. It's like articles are written with headlines, Trump, the walls are closing in on Trump. And then you read the fine print. I call it the fine print. Read a couple of paragraphs down. It's $4 billion that he just made through the SEC, allowing the merger of a social media company and another digital company to take place. So he already made $4 billion from that company going public. I don't think he really cares about the $450 million in New York. If anything, like Kevin O'Leary said, it's going to hurt the people of New York. It's going to hurt people who own buildings, and in turn, the average working class that AOC claims to care so much about. So it's like they're trying to hurt Trump, and at the end of the day, they're actually harming working class people who, work very hard for a living every day in New York. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. Let's listen to future President and former President Donald Trump.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very sad day for, in my opinion, the country. A New York State judge just ruled, and he's crooked as you can get. And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it. Letitia James, they've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China.
By the way, if you campaign, so the big thing that they said about Trump is that, oh my God, he campaigned to put his political opponent in jail. Oh my God. That's exactly what the New York Democrats did. How on earth can they say this is about the rule of law when they literally campaigned to try to imprison Trump? So, I mean, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. And then you have the fact that Deutsche Bank gave $2 billion to Trump. These banks made a great deal of money with Trump. So, Pony Soldier, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. So these banks made a great deal of money. It's like, it's unbelievable hypocrisy. Thank you, Pony Soldier. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Let's continue.
This is the same game. All comes out of the DOJ. It all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here. So I just want to say this. You build a great company. There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump. They testified that Trump is great customer, one of our best customers. They testified beautifully. And the judge knows that. He's just a corrupt person. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount.
By the way, I'll give you a fact check before you hear or read the deceptive fact checks. And Pony Soldier, thank you again. When they say fact check, the judge never used the $15 million number. Oh, or the court never derived, never appraised Mar-a-Lago at $15 million. They're using a county appraisal or a Florida county or Florida city or Florida state appraisal. Okay. The problem, however, is that you can't just use an appraisal by some county official or city official that had their own reasons for appraising Mar-a-Lago at 15 or 16 or whatever for tax purposes. That's not what it would sell as. You know, a very storied, now historic, gigantic residence in a very, sought after, part of Florida. So if a real estate agent went and sold Mar-a-Lago, it would be hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, well over 100 million, let's put it that way. Okay, it wouldn't be 15. So yet again, New York Democrats are doing something completely absurd. They're using a tax appraisal and saying Trump lied. But see, again, the greatest liars, the people who deceive the most, are the people who are so desperate to call Trump a liar, taking his words out of context. Like, for example, this, stating that the tax appraisal from a county or state official or city official is actually directly correlated to what Mar-a-Lago is worth. Okay? That's completely absurd, but then again, their only goal is to take down and demean Trump. It's not about the truth, okay? Nobody has lied more than those trying to take down Trump. They say Trump is a liar. They can't even name a lie. And if they name a lie that Trump told, it's almost certainly the same type of thing that Democrats were saying until they changed their vantage point because Trump was saying it. Hit subscribe if you're new.
So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me, said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of before he even got the case. And Letitia James, that's another case altogether. She's a horribly corrupt attorney general, and it's all having to do with election interference. There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money. They made $100 million. And by the way, I paid approximately $300 million in taxes as the migrants come in and they take over New York. I paid over this period of years over $300 million in taxes, and they want me out. Oh, let's see if we can get them out. These are radical left Democrats. They're lunatics, and it's election interfering. So I just want to thank you for being here. We'll appeal. We'll be successful, I think, because, frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone. People are moving out of New York State, and because of this, they're going to move out at a much faster rate. They used a statute. It's a consumer fraud statute that's never been used for a thing like this before. They used it on me because I'm running for president. I'm beating Biden by a lot. We're beating not only the Republicans, we're beating Biden by a lot. The poll came out today. We're up 20 points on Biden. If I weren't running, none of this stuff would have ever happened. None of these lawsuits would have ever happened. Nothing would. I would have had a nice life. But I enjoy this life for a different reason. We're going to make America great again. These are corrupt people. These are people that shouldn't be allowed to do the things they do. And they're using this as weaponization against a political opponent who's up a lot in the polls and always will be, because I'm competing with a man who can't put two sentences together, who doesn't know what he's doing. And we're heading into a third world war because of this guy. We have to win this election. They're doing everything possible to step in our way, but we're not going to stand for it. So thank you very much. We will get back to work. It's a ridiculous award. Listen, a fine of $355 million for doing a perfect job, for having paid back a loan with no defaults, with no problems. The banks were totally, at the trial, they testified. We had an expert witness from the Stern School at NYU that made a statement. And I was very honored by his statement. He's one of the most respected people anywhere in the country for doing this kind of thing, expert wisdom. He said, this is one of the greatest financial statements I have ever witnessed before. And he talked about even the detail. So my numbers actually were extremely conservative. They saw this, so what the judge did is he brought down certain values like Mar-a-Lago, made it ridiculous. But the expert, after having all of this, testified it's one of the best financial statements he's ever seen. And I was honored by that. But I also knew we have a corrupt judge. He's not a respected man. And again, I said before, he's been overturned on this case by the appellate division 4 times already. It's a record. Nobody's ever been overturned on one case 4 times. And I think very importantly, and I think ultimately the most important, we've employed tens of thousands of people in New York, and we pay taxes like few other people have ever paid in New York, and they don't care about that. It's a state that's going bust. It's a state that's going bust because everybody's leaving, and it's all headed up by Biden, who's destroying our country. So this is Russia, this is
So you don't have to just look at this Fortune article, okay? Every single article, almost every single article talking about Trump's financial demise has, on what I call the fine print, way down in the article, the last paragraph or the second to last paragraph, it'll have, oh, by the way, he made a couple billion. Oh, by the way, he made $4 billion with Truth Social. Oh, by the way, he has hundreds of millions of dollars in overseas properties. Okay? Oh, by the way, he just started a sneaker company and made millions from that. So, oh, by the way, he has resorts and casinos and hotels everywhere around the world. Luna, thank you. So, the narrative is imploding if you just do a little research. Okay? The thing with Democrats is that they're so desperate to make Trump into the type of individual that they would like him to be. Okay? The problem is that he's certainly not, like, he doesn't have any money troubles. Okay? He's not unhinged. He's not mean. He's not immoral. When people talk about, like, oh, well, Trump, I just don't get it. Like, his personality, like, you think Biden's personality, you think Biden is more moral? You think Biden is morally superior? I don't think so. Go look at what he's done throughout his life. Writing the part of the 94 crime bill that incarcerated people for very long sentences for possession of the same substance that Hunter was accused of having partaken in, or, something involved with, let's put it that way. Okay? But again, it's like people don't see this on the left. They only see, if you dislike Trump after everything that's taken place, after everything Biden has done or didn't do as president, you really don't know much about politics. You really don't care about foreign policy. I mean, I'm sorry. If you're voting for the current president, mashed potato brains, you don't really care about foreign policy. You don't really care about inflation or interest rates or crime. You don't care about what's taking place, people losing their lives more than ever, more than at any point in Trump's administration trying to enter the country. The crime is like rampant. Then they say, well, and then they slice and dice numbers to make it look good. When in reality, people are less safe. And then you have, like, for example, Bill Maher says, well, you should, you should be happy for what Biden has, for what? Interest rates going through the roof? That's why inflation, they say, is only at 3%. Interest rates going through the roof. You have a foreign policy quagmire everywhere in the world. We were supposed to be strong on the world stage with Democrats. The opposite is taking place. It's a complete debacle. Okay? Countries are getting invaded and going into wars when they weren't under Trump. They were not under Trump. You can go and look at Trump's foreign policy. I said when Biden won that this would take place, that the world would descend into madness, and it has, unfortunately. Hit subscribe if you're new. This is the brilliant Alina Hobbs.
I'm not here to hear what he has to say. That was what rang true, loud, committed fraud before we even walked into this courtroom. I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Then why exactly am I being paid as an attorney, and why exactly are taxpayer dollars being used in this courtroom? The answer is very clear. Because Miss James wants to stand right here like she did this morning and call my client a liar, call the company fraudulent, and make a name for herself. She said this morning that the numbers don't lie and they won't lie in this case. Well, Miss James, I have a message for you. The numbers didn't lie when you ran for governor, and that's why you dropped out. And the numbers don't lie when President Trump runs for office in 2024. And those numbers are loud and clear. This country is falling apart. And if we don't stop corruption in courtrooms where attorneys are gagged, where attorneys are not allowed to say what they need to say to protect their clients' interests, it doesn't matter what your politics are. Everyone has a right in this country to get up and put a defense. I don't care who you are. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can put objections on the record. You have a right to hire a lawyer who can stand up and say something when they see something wrong. But I was told to sit down today. I was yelled at, and I've had a judge who is unhinged slamming a table. Let me be very clear. I don't tolerate that in my life. I'm not going to tolerate it here. And you know what? You shouldn't either. Because not every American citizen gets a camera and a microphone. And what I'm seeing is such a demise of American judicial system and democracy. Miss James came out this morning and said that she knew Mr. Trump, and she always calls him Mr. Trump because it kills her that he was the president. But the 45th president of this country, one of the best presidents we've had, has built a great company. It's worth a ton more than that statement of financial condition. And she doesn't know how to get out of it because her politics won't allow her. She calls him a bully. She says he's going to bring out racial slurs. He's going to say things today and taunt her. Well, Miss James, you taunted him. Before you came into office, before you saw one record, one statement of financial condition, you taunted him. You said his administration was too male and too pale. Those are her words. She said that she and Michael Cohen were going to be his biggest nightmare. Well, I have some news for you, Miss James. Michael Cohen folded, lied, and crumbled. Your star witness, along with all the DAs and corrupt AGs, need to be paying attention to what happens when you let us take the stand. When you let my client speak the truth, and the judge can tell me to sit down, and he can try and shorten my client's testimony, but it is loud and clear. They've got nothing. They've got nothing but their politics. She's got nothing but her Soros backing, which we discovered recently. And you don't have a lawyer that has a microphone, and you don't have a lawyer that can go on TV, and you've got judges gagging them. What are you going to do? We need to fix this country. And we need to stop what is happening in this courtroom.
So, ladies and gentlemen, she's 100% right. It's not going to work. Nothing they do is going to work. So, what they're trying to do is claim that Trump can't pay the $450 million plus dollars, and therefore he lied to you. He's not a billionaire. I'm telling you, this is a Fortune magazine article right here. Not only is he a billionaire, he just made $4 billion that the SEC allowed. After the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, allowed a merger to take place with Truth Social. That was just recently, like a couple of weeks ago. It's $4 billion on paper. Big deal, it's on paper. Who cares? $4 billion. $4 billion. Say it slowly, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats who think that Trump is penniless. How utterly stupid do you have to be? How much of a complete and utter delusional imbecile do you have to be to think that Trump is penniless or that he has financial worries when the man just made $4 billion from an SEC, from a merger that the SEC just allowed to take place with Truth Social? And I'm not even getting to his overseas properties, which they say, this is just like Hunter. It's like, no, it's not. Trump's not on the board of directors of a shady energy company because Trump's father was the vice president. It's nothing like what Democrats do. It's absolutely nothing like. The life of a Democrat is try desperately to make everything morally relative, muddy the waters, talk about information that misinforms as you actively misinform. $4 billion. It says that right there. Stock rally and Trump Media and Technology Group has minted a nearly $4 billion windfall for Trump. A nearly $4 billion windfall for Donald J. Trump. And this is just one article. There are articles talking about his 70 plus million shares in Truth Social. So, I mean, it's right there. Again, you could do 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, for anyone who thinks that he's penniless or he has worries. He's getting the bond. He's trying to get the bond because he doesn't want to waste any money that he has. And he's not just going to pay the fine outright because obviously it's politically motivated. It's completely unfair. And so, yeah, it's like this countdown. It's like this soap opera, but nobody cares really. I mean, you'd have to be, again, completely clueless to think that he's not financially just fine. I mean, it's right there. This is a Fortune article from a couple of weeks back. Okay? Right here. And the article is hilarious. It's Trump faces huge losses. And like with every article about Trump, if you just read the fine print, oh, by the way, in addition to the huge losses where he's doing really poorly in terms of his finances, and the good Democrats in New York are going after him, and they're going to bankrupt him. Yay! Oh, what's this? Oh, no, not again. A rally in the stock tied to Trump Media has minted nearly $4 billion windfall for Trump. Wah, wah, wah. You failed again. Wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats, you failed again. November is going to be so amazing. November is going to be absolutely phenomenal. When Trump wins again, it's going to be the best thing that you've ever seen. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And it's like, Trump is doing the right thing. Why would you pay a fine that was completely partisan, completely unethical, borderline it is unconstitutional, but you can get to the Supreme Court, already backed Trump 9-0, unanimous. and they'll give Trump immunity because they're not going to rewrite the Constitution. They're not going to rewrite every precedent, Nixon v. Fitzgerald, just to suit the special counsel that's trying to interfere. I mean, Democrats, they're like, Trump is a despot. He's an authoritarian. He's a tyrant. Oh, let's indict him under 91 criminal charges. That won't look like we're the despots. Let's listen to the
back in court for the Eugene Carroll case on Wednesday.
Yeah, well,
My bookkeeping business.
group. Thank you very much. Yeah, we've gone through years with this person. She's a political hack, the Attorney General. The judge is obviously extremely friendly with the group, and we'll see what happens. I think maybe he may surprise people on a positive side. We'll have to see what happens exactly. But we've proven this case so conclusively. We've asked for directed verdict many times. They don't have any facts. They don't have any evidence against us. Millions and millions of pages, years of litigation, and all politically motivated. She campaigned on a "I will get Trump." If you've ever seen any of her clips, they're horrible clips, actually. The anger, she's got serious Trump derangement syndrome. There's no question about it. Letitia James, the corrupt Attorney General of New York. So we've proven our case. There's not one witness against us other than one person who is a deranged. He's got a lot of problems. He's a man who's been convicted of lying. He's a felon, convicted felon, and not a good person. But that's their only witness, and he's now crashed and burned. They have no witnesses. And by the way, that witness took back everything that he said. He took back everything he said in court, took it all back. So they have no case. It's a shame that a thing like this is able to happen. Businesses leave New York. She went after Exxon, and they decided to move to Texas. And hundreds of millions of dollars they pay in taxes. I paid over $300 million of taxes over the last number of years. $300 million. And they don't recognize that. They don't recognize anything.
You could take the tax revenue from everyone that Trump employed in his lifetime, okay? And it would be infinitely more than the combined tax revenue of every socialist or communist or left-leaning Democratic congressperson combined. Think about that for a second. Since the 80s, Trump has employed people to build resorts, hotels, venues in New York and throughout the world. They all paid taxes from the money that Trump paid them. From the tax revenue, because Democrats and like AOC and all these like far left progressives are all into more taxes. Think of the economic impact in terms of, they say, he didn't pay his taxes. Like, well, why don't you think a little bit beyond the vapid partisan talking points that are meaningless? How many people do you think Trump employed since the 80s? Probably tens of thousands. They all paid taxes on their paycheck. They all paid sales tax. Okay? They paid property tax. So you look at the economic impact that Trump had, the positive economic impact, and the only thing they could do, he didn't pay his taxes. Like, well, that's Warren Buffett pays lower taxes than a lot of people. That's just the way the tax code is written. But in terms of a positive economic impact on society, Trump, before he became president and we had record low poverty, had a very positive impact on society.
So think of it, not one witness, millions of pages of document, years of this nonsense, and now it goes on. And one other factor, we won this case already in the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals voted in favor of us. But this judge has been very, very slow to accept that opinion because that's not the opinion that he wants. But we won in the Court of Appeals. That's the boss of this judge. He has to know that. and it was a conclusive victory, statute of limitations and other things, and that case has already been won. So that's the story, and I thought we'd come down to 40 Wall Street, which is a great building, and you'd get a chance to see one of the nicest buildings in New York and a convenient place, and I don't have to pay any rent because we have it, and it's been a very successful building. But it's a shame to have gone through this for years and years and years, and now we'll see if we're going to get an honest verdict. We didn't have a jury. We had no rights to a jury. It's a statute that's never been used before for a purpose like this. I just watched a certain broadcast, and they said, they've been looking, has it ever been used before? This is a statute that's a consumer fraud statute, never been used for anything like this before.
So this is about the rule of law. When was the last time these statutes have been used? When was the last time these statutes have been used? When was the last time a former president was imprisoned because of a speech, which is exactly why the Supreme Court will give Trump a huge victory on immunity. Could be partial immunity. It still would be a huge victory. Then Democrats say, well, there's never been a Trump. There's never been a Democratic Party or a political party so desperate to go after their opponent. None of these statutes have ever been used against anyone. And that's why the Georgia case is being completely dismantled. Florida case is going nowhere. He's a president with the power to declassify. The D.C. case, we can see right now, you'll get the immunity victory. I called the 9-0 Supreme Court victory. You could look at my segments prior to it taking place. And the New York case, the fraud, it's like everyone knows he didn't commit fraud, but they might actually convict him on the hush money payment, which is the absolute weakest case possible, which would be absolutely hilarious. So, hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. My Patreon will be below. If you want to support my work via Patreon, your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. I do think there's going to be a terrible stock market crash, unfortunately, before November. And subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel, the Bitcoin Crash channel. I know they're doing well. I get it. But when the market crashes, it'll be because of Bitcoin, or Bitcoin will crash alongside the market. Crypto, who knows what the catalyst will be, but unfortunately, we're on thin ice in terms of the economy. So, hit subscribe. I'll be here tomorrow night. I should be here. I'll try to be here tomorrow in the day, but tomorrow evening for sure. I'm doing one a day. Could do two a day. Definitely will do two a day as things ramp up. But Paul, thank you so much to my viewers around the world, in Australia, in the Philippines, in the UK, everywhere. New Zealand. Thank you so much. Nepal, thank you so very much. Nigeria, Sweden, everyone here. Thank you so very much. And it's right here, $4 billion. I mean, again, you'd have to be completely and utter. You could have to have this delusion. If you can't just simply understand that $4 billion from a Truth Social merger, $4 billion is a little bit more than the 450 million. Okay? You have to ask yourself after this live stream, is $4 billion worth more than 450 million? Because you got $4 billion. This is a Fortune magazine article from a couple weeks back. And we're not even getting into the overseas properties. Hit subscribe, everyone. God bless.